Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today we're going to talk about my story and how I got to where I am now. I appreciate all you guys that came to watch this show. You guys have been supporting me for a while, and you guys are all great. Thank you so much. Damn it, Mandy, how are you? Maureen, what's up? Bruno, what's going on? Elmwood, how are you? So today, I want to tell you guys a little bit about my background, how I baseball batted 150 people. No, that didn't happen. But we're gonna get into some funny, some maybe not so funny stories, and I still feel a little bit like shit, but I'll get through it. So a lot of you guys might have seen some of the interviews I did on Lockdown 23 and 1 or Ann Bick's podcast, Locked In with Ann Bick. And I explained a lot, but not really into great detail. So thank you, Mandy. I appreciate that. The laptop is full to the max, and I could barely even do anything on this laptop. It's got so much content on it. So I'm looking for a new laptop. If you guys want to help me with that, you can hit up Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Super Stickers, Super Chats, all that good stuff, Zelle. And I appreciate every single person that donates. So a long time ago, I started getting in trouble at a young age. In and out of prison. Well, in and out of juvenile hall at first. It was kind of like, getting in trouble as a young kid. It wasn't really that serious, just stupid shit. And then came in the major cases that I would catch. Stolen cars and things like that. I ended up going to prison so I spent a little bit of time going to school in middle school and a little bit of high school. I didn't go for very long. I only went to socialize, and that was it. So, by the time I got out of prison, it was around, I remember 1999 into 2000, I was locked up for that New Year's Eve. I remember it very well. Everyone thought the world was coming to an end. It was 2K was going on. Remember that? They said it was going to crash. Everything was going to crash. The internet wasn't really that popular back then. Marshall Mathers just came out. I was a rapper. I thought I wanted to be a rapper at this point. And I was in a level 4 prison. I was released from the level 4 prison. And shout out to my bunkie. He watches my show. Ivory. Shout out to Ivory. He was cool as hell in there. I just spoke to someone recently, and he was reminding me a bunch of people from when I was locked up. And I remember it like it was yesterday. These people were never coming home. They're probably still there, a lot of them. Some of them had 48 years, 60 years. And it put perspective on what my life was to become, because I thought I pretty much had life on the installment plan. I kept getting in trouble in and out of jail. So when I get out that time, they put me on parole. I got TS. It's called transitional supervision. So they put a monitor on your wrist. Usually it goes on your ankle, but they put it on my wrist for some reason. So I get out. I'm 21 years old. I got to find a job. My mother and father got divorced at this time. My mother, my stepfather, my real father wasn't in the picture. So my mother and my father got divorced. I get out and I move in with my mother into the house where I lived before I went to jail. So they put me on this bracelet, and I have to go and check in with a parole officer in Scoville Street in Waterbury. And it was really stressful. Like, you would have to be there a certain time, and it was like they would always it seemed like they were picking on me all the time, but they probably just wanted me to get my shit together. So I needed to get a job. So the first thing I did, my brother and my cousins were working doing framing houses. So I went down there, and they were building a neighborhood in Middletown, Connecticut called Riverbend. And I bought I remember New Year's Eve in 99, 2000. Yeah, 100%, man. I remember it very well. And there was a neighborhood called Riverbend, and I got a job framing houses. I didn't know shit. I knew a little bit, like picking up nails on the job site when I was really young, but that's about it. So, 21, I have no car, I have no license, I have nothing. And I start working for this guy, Rob. Shout out to Rob. He's still alive. But things get crazy. Once you hear this story, you'd be like, wow. So Rob takes me under his wing. He starts teaching me how to read a tape measure. I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing. And he's teaching me how to walk walls and lay out studs and all this shit. So I would ask him, how many little lines past the half? How many lines past underneath the half? Because I didn't know what I was doing. So finally, it starts catching on, and I start understanding how to read a tape measure, and I start really learning it. But I'm really not focused to the highest degree. I'm not like trying to apply myself like other people probably, like I probably should have, because I didn't care about a career or any of that shit at this point. So I save up my money. I end up buying a car, and I'm working for this guy. I buy a car. I remember the first day I buy the car, I bought a Camaro, white Camaro, and I paid $1,000 for it. And I was driving home with the car, and I left it in first gear the whole way home, and it was like, I guess I was so excited about the car, I wasn't really paying attention. But I'm still getting in trouble at this point. I get into cocaine at this stage in my life. And I really let it take a grip on me. I start missing work a lot because I'm making a lot of money at this job. It's like I'm raking in a lot of money. I have an apartment with one of my friends, and it's just like a big party house. So, and the statute of limitations of all this stuff I'm about to tell you is up. So don't think this is all allegedly. So allegedly, this kid, I used to be really into weapons and things back in the day. So if anyone had a weapon, I would buy it. And I would buy weapons a lot. I don't know what my fantasy with weapons was, but um, I always used to like to have a gun. So I end up buying a gun, and I'm carrying this gun around thinking I'm the shit. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Thank you for the super sticker, Grambino. I appreciate that. So I'm going to work as a framer, and it's a pretty rough job. Things You can get hurt very easy at that job. We're lifting walls and things. So one time we're lifting up a wall, and you're supposed to strap the wall at the bottom. You're supposed to put these metal straps and use a concrete nail to go through the metal strap, and it holds the wall from going off the edge of the building when you lift it up. And I forgot to put the strap on the bottom. So we're lifting up this wall, and the bottom kicks out, and it's on the second story. And there's a chimney attached to the wall. You build the wall while it's laying on the ground. So we're lifting up this wall, and the bottom kicks out, and it starts sliding off the building. Everyone turns and runs, and the wall smashes right through the floor. And everyone's like, "Holy shit!" It was like crazy, but no one got hurt during that incident. Now I'm working at this job for I did framing for about 10 years, but working for this guy, Rob, it was probably about 6 years. So one day Rob was a great guy. He taught me a lot. He was wild. He was crazy. Like one time, come around the building, and he's up on the third floor of the wall, taking the shit off the side of the building, like on top of the house. It was insane. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? So one day I get to work and the boss isn't there. And I'm like, what the fuck? So his cousin comes to the job and he's like, you're working with me today. And I'm like, what? Like, normally I would be working with this guy, Rob. So I end up working with him and I find out that this guy, Rob, he's he was a snowmobile racer. He used to race snowmobiles. So he would pack up these, it was like a trailer with snowmobiles in it, and they would drive to these meets and they would race these snowmobiles. So I guess they had the trailer packed up and they were driving to this meet with the snowmobiles and they slid off the road in upstate New York. The car went down an embankment, flipped over, and everyone got thrown out of the car. And the guy, Rob, that was driving, he was the only person that had his seatbelt on. Everyone else got thrown out of the car, got cuts and bruises, broken bones. No one else was majorly injured except Rob. So Rob was in the car all the way down to the bottom of this embankment, and he ended up getting paralyzed from the neck down. And he was married with a kid at the time. He just had a newborn kid. He had a brand new house out in some rich town with a lake, and he had a nice house with a brand new kid, a beautiful wife, beautiful family. And he gets in this accident. He gets paralyzed from the neck down. He has a crazy business that's booming at this point. We're making a lot of money, and I'm about 20, 24, 25 when this happens, I think. I'm not really sure on the dates, but the wife ends up leaving him. She leaves him, take the house, takes the kid, and she left him high and dry with nothing. And I'm like, damn, like his whole life was mapped out, and this one accident just stripped everything away from him. So at that point, I had to start working for this other guy. Then I had to take a pay cut. This guy, Rob, was treating me really good at the job. So I started really not liking the job anymore. I'm like, fuck this. I don't want to be here. It just turned into like a chore to even be there. And so they were having a banquet for Rob. And I go to it. I give him a bunch of money. And we went there and supported him. And he's in a wheelchair from the neck down. He's paralyzed. He has to like move around the thing with a tube and shit. They got thrown from the vehicle and got broken bones. Yep. He was the only one had his seatbelt on, and he's paralyzed from the neck down. They said if he didn't have his seatbelt on, they don't know what would have happened. Maybe, I don't know, who knows? But this is what happened. And so I got to start working for this other guy. Now, don't mind me. I still got COVID. That's like probably the end of it, hopefully. I'm out there shoveling with COVID. It was terrible, but I got it done. So I started working for this other guy, and we're framing a house in Riverbend. They're pretty big houses. They're colonials, and they're, I think, 3-bedroom houses, the full bathroom upstairs, half bathroom downstairs. And Rob's still out there. Shout out to Rob. I'm going to reach out to him soon. Maybe he'll come on and do an interview with me. So we're working on this one house, and the bosses leave. And you know what they say, when the cat's away, the mice will play. So the boss leaves, and someone goes, yo, let's go get some liquor. Let's go get some beers. So someone leaves, they come back, and we all sit around and we drink a little 6-pack, right? We all have a beer. And that's no big deal at the job site, but it wasn't like we drank at the job site ever, but the boss wasn't there, so we did it. So right after we're done with the beer, we all get back to work. Now, I was working on the chimney back of the house, right? And I was working with this other guy, Bobby. If you're watching, shout out to Bobby. He's still around too. So I'm I get up to the second floor and I climb up this ladder. We get up to there's like the attic part, and you can look out because there's no plywood on the walls. That's what we're doing. We're out on a it's a forklift and it's up to the second floor, and where you stand on this platform on the forklift and you put plywood on a wall, nail it on with nail guns. And this guy goes, "Come on." And there's plywood stacked on this platform. There's probably 30 pieces of plywood. It was way too much weight for this platform because the two forks come in and there's a piece of wood that holds it on. So the platform's like this, and then the wood holds it. And then so this wood's nailed, but it's way too much weight for that. So I step on to the platform, and this guy's cutting the plywood with another hand, and he looks over at me, and the whole platform starts going like this. So he's like going in the air as I step on, it starts like going in the air, and I hear the bottom board on the platform break, and it's like, and I turn around and I jump through the house in through the ceiling joists as I fell to the second floor. The it, it's hard to explain, but there's ceiling joists. So I jump through the ceiling joists and fall to the second floor. Bobby falls with the cage all the way down to the bottom outside where the chimney is. Now I'm working with my cousin, my brother's there, my two cousins, my brother. And we're all framing houses at this time. We're working on the same house. And I run down to the bottom where he is, and I'm thinking he's dead. It's like a pretty high drop. It's got to be over 40 feet. And all that plywood and the cage, everything fell on him. So I run down there, and my cousin is on top of the plywood, and he's looking at the guy, Bobby, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And he's under it like, "Get off the plywood." So we pull all the plywood off. This dude's all bloody, broken ribs. He's like really fucked up. And we're like, "We're going to call an ambulance." And he's like, no, don't call an ambulance because OSHA gets involved with that type of shit. It's not good. And the boss could get in a lot of trouble, especially we all just went and had a beer. So it like kind of wrecked everything. And it made us look really bad. So he ends up driving me home with him. We're in the truck together. He's all fucked up driving. And I'm like, "Damn, man, what are you gonna do?" He's like, "I'm just gonna ask him for a week's worth of pay, and then we're gonna keep going to work. We're gonna keep doing our thing." So that was the plan, because you can go a bunch of different routes. You could try to sue him and get money like a lot of scumbags out there do. But I'm not like people out there. Maybe I live by certain ethics, but that's just how I am. So he's like, "We'll just ask him for a week worth of pay and a week off. So we get a week paid and we could heal up from our injuries and keep moving." So that's what we tell the guy. And he has a big problem with it. He doesn't want to give us the money to take a week off. And he's being a real dick, right? So we end up taking some time off, and I end up stop going to work. I'm like, "Fuck this." So I start falling back into the bullshit, running the streets and doing stupid shit. And by this time, I'm really messing with cocaine pretty heavy. And, it was like enveloping my whole life. It was like all I did. I would go out with my friend and we would just be doing drugs constantly and drinking. It was a constant cycle. And we'd be renting cars, and you like sell drugs to maintain this level of whatever, and you're continuing through life trying to keep everything going, but really you're just fucking up your whole life. Like, and if anyone out there is struggling with drug addiction, just know it's not over. You can start your life over right now. It doesn't have to be that for the rest of your life. A lot of I wish I would have got it a long time ago, and I wish it didn't take me as long as it did, but I'm thankful that I'm where I'm at in life, because I can be a good role model for other people who are struggling with the same thing I was struggling with. And it's a constant battle. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. It's but it's worth it 100%, because my worst day sober is way better than my best day fucked up. And I used to sit there and pray, like, I wish I was sober. I wish I could get it right. And I just felt like I could never get things together. So remember, I told you I would buy weapons off people, right? So I have an apartment at this time with a friend. I'm not going to name him. He knows who he is. He's probably watching. So one day I get a knock at the door, and it's the police. And they're like, it's two detectives. And they're like, this guy said that he sold you a weapon. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm thinking, this motherfucker, he really told the police that I bought a weapon off. Like, what the fuck? So there's this other guy, and he passed away. His name's they called him Matt Dog. Rest in peace to Matt Dog. He ended up getting killed down in Florida. He got shot and killed. But Matt Dog was a cool ass person, and we ended up going to a Jamaican smoke festival out in Vermont. And by this time, I was like a blackout drinker, and I barely remember half of the trip. But I do remember the day that we left to go on this trip. He had this big ass pit bull, right? And he had a Cadillac, and the dog took a shit in the back seat right before we left to go on this trip. And it was terrible. It was like, what the fuck, man? And we ended up going up there, and it was craziness. You know, a lot of people with dreadlocks and a lot of weed and different things like that. And so by this time, I come back, and what's going on, Emerald? How you doing? Edwin, Jojo, what's up? Muggsy Siegel, how are you? Thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you guys. Maureen, how are you? So I end up getting in a bunch of trouble. I don't even really remember what it was over, but I ended up on probation somehow, right? And I would always try to outsmart the probation officer. And no, this was the parole, when I was on parole on Scoville Street. So I ended up going to the strip club all the time. It was named Mr. Wiggles out in Torrington. It's no longer, and the owner ended up dying. He ended up unaliving himself with a shotgun. It's pretty crazy. But I used to go up there, and your background looks sharp with the red. Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that. So I ended up going up there all the time. And so the probation always used to make me take urines, but I'm doing drugs. So I got to find a way around it. And I have 100% way that you could beat a urine. Listen close. If you want to beat a urine, just don't do drugs, and you'll be fine. Because there is no surefire way to beat a urine. I can guarantee you that. People say all this crazy shit, like put your finger in bleach, do all kinds of crazy shit. Drink water, drink vinegar. It never works. It never ever works. So there was one time, Staxx, I was a demo foreman for 28 years. Back in 2012, I fell in an elevator shaft, 3.5 stories, taking out a brick shaft in South Boston. I fell into the rubble down below, and now I live off. Damn, that's crazy, man. Yeah, I know quite a few people who have been hurt on the job and things like that. That's no good. They ended up putting me on unemployment. I lived out the unemployment, and then I just stopped going to I stopped going back to work. I was like, fuck that, and I just started doing my own thing on the street. So, but by this time, I'm not associated with the gangs anymore, and but I'm still cool with a lot of people, and I started doing tattoos. So one time, the probation officer always would try to catch me with dirty urines. I had 9 dirty urines, right? And one time I was dirty. I knew I was dirty, and she wanted a urine from me. And I had like 3 years suspended. And I knew if I gave her this urine, I was going to prison. And it was like, fuck. So I didn't want to give her a urine. So I'm like trying to think of a way to get out of it. So this one time I brung urine with me to the probation office. And I'm in the office, and she tells me, you got to take your urine. And she sends this dude to go in with me to watch me take the urine. So I'm trying to pop the balloon, right? I'm trying to pop the balloon with a pen in my pocket. And the guy grabs me. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. So we started like fighting inside the probation office because he's trying to find out what I'm doing, but I'm trying to fucking beat the urine. But I'm not gonna tell him that, you know? So with my quick-witted thinking, he brings me back into the office, and the lady is asking me questions, right? And I tell her I want to hurt people. I say I want to hurt a bunch of people and this and that. So she ends up calling 911 under the desk. So the police show up. They come walking into the office. And I already know what I'm doing. I'm trying to get out of there. That's my plan, to get out of there. Because if they catch me, I'm going to prison. So the cops walk in and they start questioning me, and they take me out of there, right? They bring me to the hospital. By the time I get to the hospital, they're asking me questions at the hospital. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm good. So they let me go. So I'm off again. But I already have these other urines, these other 9 dirty urines. And I wanted to get clean. I've been to rehab a bunch of times. So I'm figured I'm going to go to rehab, right? So I end up, she sent me. She said, I'm sending you to rehab. And I had no experience with rehab or anything like that. But the court is the first place where I ever found AA and NA. They made me go to a couple meetings, but I didn't care for it too much. And I ended up going. And that's probably what sparked the first seed of recovery in my life. So I end up going to this rehab. It's in Stonington. And for the people out there that know, it is crazy. They have a place called H1 and H2. They call it the Dirty Deuce. I walk in there, right? They have like a state worker drive you down there. I walk in there with my bags, and you walk into the front door, and it's all people like me there. People who don't give a fuck, who are wilding out and doing whatever they want. So I come walking in with my bags, and we stop at this, it's a big ass house, like a big old mansion. So I walk in and put my bags down, and there's a door, like a half a door, like a medicine place. If you're in the doctor, they have the doors that are cut in half. So there's a half a door and the top is open. And I see this black dude sitting in a chair with a little office. And he's like the guy you got to see, the house manager, they call it. Now, these people don't have any credentials or anything. They're just like, they're probably recovering addicts themselves. So I end up walking in there and he's asking me all these questions. He's searching through my shit. And I'm just like, damn, I feel like I'm going back into prison. Because I already been to prison a bunch of times by this point. So I walk in the house. It's all dirty in there. Brooklyn, what's up, man? Dave, how are you? Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. So I walk into this house and it's all dirty, right? It's like real dirty. It's a hot summer day. I don't want to be there. And I'm walking through this house and it's got this certain smell to it. For the people out there that know, the Dirty Deuce in New London, Stonington. So I'm walking through the house. I get out to the back, right? And I walk out into the backyard and it's like dirt. It's all dirt. And there's some dudes in the back working out on milk crates. There's milk crates and they got like this fucking makeshift workout bench in the backyard. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm like thinking, damn, I feel like maybe I should just go back to prison. This is fucking bad. So they're like, oh, your room's upstairs. So I got all my shit and I'm walking upstairs with this other person showing me where to go, right? And I'm looking in the rooms as I'm walking and people are doing drugs in the rooms. Like there's someone smoking shit in that room. I'm walking by, there's someone doing shit in that room, and I'm just like, what the fuck? So I get into the room, and there's just a mattress on the corner on the floor. And I'm like, this, Pasquale, what's up, man? I'm like, this is a rehab? I'm like, I never thought it would be like this. What the fuck? So I'm like, whatever. So in the morning, they wake you up really early, right? And there's people running all around this house, brushing their teeth and using the bathroom, and it's just so much chaos going around. You're just like, what the fuck? You don't know what to do. So this is like my first day there. So they pull up with two vans pull up in front of this house, and it gets good. Just keep listening. It gets really good. So we jump into the vans, packed into these vans, because this house is packed to the gills with people. There's like 6 people in each room. It's insane. It was not sanitary or none of that shit. So the vans take off. I have no clue where we're going, what we're doing. We take off and we start driving through New London. How you doing, Latin Butterfly? Thanks for joining me. Yeah, rehab's definitely a scam. They get tons of money for each person. It's a total scam. So this rehab, we start driving over the bridge in New London to go to Groton, and they have like it's like a facility. It's Michael Franchise is adopted, 100%. He's adopted, man. You didn't know that? That's not his real dad. Is his lineage in who knows? I never thought of that. Maybe that could be. Who knows if he's even Italian? Who knows? Maybe I should look into who his real father is. So you can grab me some shells at Bluff Point. So we end up going to this facility, right? And it's like classrooms. You walk in, it's a big facility. There's windows in the front, and there's like classrooms with seats all set up. So I walk in there, and I'm telling you, it was like welcome to hell. It was like crazy people everywhere. It was a lot of gang members in there. People like when we pulled up in these 2 buses, like these 2 vans, there's people sitting in different groups. Everyone's smoking. So I get out and I just go there and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, I have no clue where I am. I have no dealings with New London at this point in my life. I've never been here in my life. So, and I'm kind of standoffish. You guys know how when you first get to a new place, I don't know how many people in the chat has been to a rehab before, but this is like my first experience at a rehab. I've already been to prison at this point, and I've been to different facilities, but nothing like this. This is kind of like you got your own freedom, but not really. So I go into the place and I meet a lady. I don't know if I should say her name, probably not. We'll say her name's P. We'll call her P, all right? So I meet this lady, P, and for the people out there know who she is. So she was like one of the coolest people in there. She was an alleged clinician. So these people have to have like a degree to some level to be teaching the people at this rehab. So you couldn't just be a person off the street or a person you get sober and you just go there. You have to have a degree in college and all this stuff. So she seemed like really well versed at all this recovery stuff. So a lot of people really admired her and they liked her. She was a pretty chick too. So they would write people's names on the board who had to take a urine that day. They would write them on the chalkboard. And if your name wasn't there, you're good. So the first day I'm looking, my name's not there. I'm good. So we leave. And we go through the day. You sit there and you just listen to them talk all day. And then you get a break. You go outside. You smoke cigarettes. You come back in. You do another class. Then you go outside. You come in, you eat lunch, you go outside, you take another class, you go outside. It's like that all day long. All day. It's like programming. So we leave. The first day is done, right? And there's some girl hounding me the first day. Like, she's like following me around the rehab and shit. So we go back to the house. And this day, it was Friday, I remember. And we have the weekend, you don't go to the school. They don't bring you to the school. But when you first get to this place, you can't leave the house for the first 48 or 72 hours. And I just got there on Thursday, so I couldn't leave. Everyone else got to go out on their little passes all day, and I had to stay in the house. So I'm in the house. I'm watching TV and people are coming in and out, and I'm like, it's kind of weird. Like, people are coming in and out that aren't in that house. Like, I'm like, the fuck? I'm just noticing the different people that are coming in and out of the house, and they didn't go to the school with us. So I'm like, I'm just watching everything, and I'm talking to a couple people, and they're like, yeah, those are the drug dealers. I'm like, what? The drug dealers? They're like, yeah, they come and bring us drugs. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, you just call whoever and they'll meet you over there. They'll come to the house. And these people were just like meeting drug dealers while they're in this rehab program. And I'm like thinking, what the fuck is the point in being in a rehab? Why wouldn't you just leave? Why would you sit there and do drugs in front of other people like that? It's just weird to me. Know who the real boss of Genevieve's family is? Nah, I don't talk about active people. Not on my channel, man. You'll find that shit on other people's channels, but I don't talk about active people in the mob. So yeah, this I find out that all these people are meeting drug dealers and they're buying heroin off their drug dealers in the house. I'm like, what the fuck? So that night, it's like probably 11 o'clock at night, right? And all of a sudden, there's all these sirens. And I'm like, what the fuck? all these sirens. Woo, woo. So we all run outside, and the fire truck is on the building. It's on the house that we're in. So we're in front of the house looking up, and there's one of the clients on the roof, high on drugs, and he's bugging out on the roof, and he won't come down. And the fire department is trying to get him off the roof. So he bought drugs off one of his drug dealers, and he ended up bugging out, going out the fire escape and hanging out on the roof, and he couldn't come down. And the fire department had to come and take him down. So by this time, they're like, they're gonna move me, right? Because I'd said I gotta leave this house or I'm leaving. Like, I'm not staying here no more. So they end up moving me. This house, the house that I was just telling you about, is called the Dirty Deuce. They moved me to H1. It was up the road, probably a block and a half. Like, from H1, you could look down the street and you could see the top of the other house. It was that close. So they moved me to that house, and it's all new people. I have to meet all new people, and but it's all guys. It's no girls in there. It's all just guys inside these houses. They would have the girls' houses were somewhere else in the town, but when you get these little furloughs, they were all meet up together. But I wasn't able to leave yet because I just got there. So by the time when this dude got caught on the roof and he couldn't get down, I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. So I told him I need to leave. So they moved me to the other house. So I set up my stuff, and I remember that the guy was making spaghetti and sausages, right? And he took raw sausage and he had the spaghetti on the stove, and he just dumped the raw sausage into the spaghetti sauce. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I'm not eating none of this. Like, I'm not eating this food. And my grandmother was alive at that time. Rest in peace to my grandmother. She would send me food packages, and I would get like a box with a whole bunch of stuff. And so by this time, one day, we're all sitting in the house watching TV, and there's a big bang on the door. Boom, boom. And these cops bust in the house, and they're looking for some fugitive that's wanted for murder and all this shit. And he wasn't there at the time. He was out on his little furlough. And they ended up catching him and arresting him. But that's against the law. You're not supposed to go into a rehab and arrest someone, but that happened. So at this time, and you could look this up, this is crazy. They moved me from this house to another house. They were opening a brand new house on the street called Walden Street, or Walden Ave, out in New London. Anyone from New London knows this place. So it was called Walden. So they moved me to that house, all new people again. But this house was co-ed, was girls and guys. And that made it a lot better. So, but it was insane because the insanity just kept getting crazier and crazier. And this is my first time in a place like this. So this program was like, I think it was 8 weeks. It was like 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. So, and if I completed it, I didn't have to go to prison. So, I'm able, shout out to the guy who was running the house. Great guy, Justice. Shout out to Justice. He watches the show. At this point in my life, I'm making music and things like that. So I walk into this house and I meet this guy, Justice. And he has a music studio in the house. He has a microphone, all this stuff. And back in the day, before this, all of this, I used to produce music. I had a music studio and all this shit a long, long time ago. I used to make videos and all kinds of stuff a real long time ago. So when I seen he had a music studio, I'm like, man, I know how to produce music. So I started producing music for him in the house. And I ended up getting a tattoo gun sent to me, whole tattoo kit. So I started doing tattoos in the rehab. It was pretty dope. It made things a lot better. You know what I'm saying? So um, they let us go on these furloughs where you're able to go out and explore the town for, it was like 3 hours or something like that. And this was when K2 started hitting the scene. This was when it first started hitting the scene. It wasn't like it is now. It was kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it, but everybody in this rehab was doing K2. They were rolling blunts of it, smoking blunts of K2 all the time. Like everyone in there were doing it. There would be sessions of blunts of K2 every single day. Now, at this time, I had a girlfriend and I had a cell phone. You weren't supposed to have a cell phone in the rehab, but I had. And, I was always texting her before I would go to groups and stuff like that. So I was getting towards the ending of my time being there. But someone else unalived themselves inside the house. A lot of people ended up passing away in this rehab. People were having seizures from not being on the drugs that they were taking. And a lot of people were passing away. It was like probably every week someone was dying. And one guy ended up, I don't even know if I should explain it too much on YouTube. They might take offense to it or something. But he ended up finding a string and using it, put it that way, inside a bathroom. And it was pretty crazy to witness all that stuff while you're trying to get sober. But at this point, I'm not trying to get sober. I'm just trying to stay out of prison. So, because I had 3 years hanging at this point. So I end up going out and I'm like, I'm going to find a job somewhere in this town so that when I graduate from this rehab, I can be set up with a job. So I go down to this pizzeria, a string, yeah. It was thicker than a string, but you get the drift, right? I'm thinking I'm gonna get a job at this pizzeria. So I go to this pizzeria and they're like, we're hiring. So I apply. And they tell me you got the job. But I'm still in the rehab, so I can't go to work yet. And I tell them I gotta wait. That same day, I'm watching the news, and the kid who worked there got killed the day before. He got stabbed inside, right at when after he was leaving work. I don't know exactly the whole situation. It's inside the article, but I forget exactly what happened. But he was leaving his job. There was like 4 people. They stabbed him and killed him. And then I applied for the job and got it. But I never ended up going to the job because once I seen that he got killed right outside his job, I'm like, yeah, nah, it's in New London. It was in New London. Yeah, so the school was in Groton, but where you lived at in the houses was in New London, so it was across the bridge. You didn't have a car or anything, so you couldn't like walk across the bridge and go to. But I did used to go to me and my girlfriend at the time when she came down to visit me, we did go to the base and chill in the parking lot, you know what I'm saying? So I get that job and I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna work there. Fuck that. And so me and the person who was running the house, Justice, shout out to Justice. Matter of fact, I just seen Justice. Me and him went to, or him and I went to the call out. Justice was with me at the call out. Shout out to Jared Tillinghast and all the incredible things that I'm doing with my life now. It's a total 180 from where I was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And some people can't even believe it, but you better believe it because it's happening. But anyway, I find out that the lady P that everyone admired and looked up to and got a lot of advice, and she was a great person, her credentials were fake. She never graduated from college or anything. She had no degrees, none of that shit. It was all fake. But she had a lot of people that liked her, but she turned out to be a fraud. It's crazy. Hartford was crazy back in the day. Hell yeah, it was. So it gets better. So I ended up graduating from this place, and I have to go to a halfway house after that. It's kind of like you step your way down. So for anyone that knows, there's a halfway house in East Hartford, right on Burnside Ave, right at the end of Burnside Ave. And that's where I went. So they put me in that house on the second floor. And I have to stay in this halfway house. My probation officer's like, you got to do whatever they tell you and all this shit. But I'm trying to get this over with. But inside that rehab, the only thing I was doing with these people was smoking K2. I wasn't doing hard drugs or anything in there like that. Other people were, but I wasn't. I just wasn't into it. But I wanted to leave and continue to do whatever I wanted to do. It was like I just wanted to do whatever I wanted. I didn't care about other people, what they thought. I figured, what am I hurting anyone else? That's the way I thought back then. So I end up going to this house, moving in. Now, when I move into this house, it's a lot of convicted felons. They're on parole, things like that. Like they're fresh out of prison. So it was a lot different from the rehab. It was a little more strict, and I didn't like it at all. You had to go to a certain amount of meetings every week, and it was just really, really not a good environment at all. So I end up staying there for a little bit, and one day I go to Dunkin' Donuts right on I think it was Main Street. Main Street is the main road in East Hartford. And there's a guy in there, and he's standing in back of me in the line, and he's talking shit about my tattoo on my neck. And I go to the register. He's with his friend. Dion, how you doing? I go to the register. He's with his friend. And I get my coffee. And I just turned around and threw the coffee on him. I'm like, fuck that. You ain't gonna disrespect me. Back then I was wild. I didn't care. So I ran out of Dunkin' Donuts and I ran around the corner. I run back to the house and I tell the person who runs the house, I gotta go. And that was that. I was done with that program. I ended up packing all my stuff and moving out. And things ended up getting a lot more crazy after that, but we're going to save it for next time. And you guys will hear the rest of the story. I'm going to keep it going on the next one. But I appreciate all you guys taking the time to listen to me blabber for the last 54 minutes and 49 seconds. It's been great. I'm going to give some shout outs. I still got a little bit I can chill with you guys. Latin Butterfly, how you doing? Dion, what's going on, man? Damn it, Mandy, how are you? But just know, anyone out there that's struggling with drug addiction, alcoholism, it doesn't have to be your life. You can definitely change your life now. You don't need to be stuck in that cycle of addiction. Give yourself a chance. It's definitely worth it. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Misery is definitely refundable. I'm living proof that you can change. I was really bad. Like, I thought I never had a chance to change my life. I thought my life was completely over, and it's not. It's just begun. So if you guys are out there struggling, reach out to me. I'll give you any advice I can. I can't tell you how to do it. I can just tell you what I did. And if you want to help me with the show, you can hit up Cash App, Chatting with Staxx, or Venmo, PayPal, Super Stickers, Super Chats. I'm trying to get a new laptop. This one's full of content, and I'm going to keep pumping content out for you guys. I have a whole bunch of interviews lined up for this week, and I'm dropping part 2 of Jack O'Halloran's interview tomorrow. And I have an interview I did with Matt Granahan and Larry Mazza. That one's getting dropped tomorrow too. So I hope you guys like this story. I have a lot of great stuff coming. Appreciate you, Dion. Staxx helped me learn the YouTube game. Much appreciated, no doubt. Full green light. Thanks, man. Thanks for joining me. Latin Butterfly. From you going through rough times back then, I'm proud of you and what you have become today. Many more blessings. Thank you. How long were you at the first part of the rehab? The first house, the big mansion house, probably like 3 days until I got moved to the second part. And then I was in that place for probably a week. And then from there, I was in that other house for probably the rest of the time, the rest of the 6 weeks. And I ended up graduating that program. So I ended up going through the whole program, no dirty urines, no infractions or none of that. I graduated the program, and it gets a lot crazier. So just know it gets a lot crazier, and there's another rehab coming up I got to tell you about. It's insane. And that same probation officer, after I get out, we'll get into the story next time. You guys will like it. But I appreciate all you guys. I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you for listening to me. There's a lot of great things to come. Just remember,